Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the TCC meetup. Uh, for those that don't know what TCC is, I'll give a short introduction. TCC is a community for content creators, and we do a monthly meetup to learn, connect, and grow with the help of each other. And every month we have someone from the community coming in and sharing their experience, whatever industry they're in. And today we have Reuben Rato. Uh, so I'm sure most of you here know about Reuben. So I'll just give a short introduction for those that don't know. Reuben is a marketing, branding, and communications professional. And for the last 18 years, he's worked with well-known companies like Ola, Coca-Cola, Capgemini, and TCS, and has created campaigns that cater to like different kind of audiences. And I think about couple of years ago, he switched over to entrepreneurship and started Rato Communications, which is a one-of-a-kind consultancy that aims to help startups and small businesses specifically with their content, marketing, branding, and similar services. He's also the founder of the Content Collective community. So, welcome, Reuben Rato. And
Hi
over.
everyone. Thanks, Bhumika, for the introduction. I am not very good with talking about myself, so thank you so much for doing that for me. Uh, so we are a small group. So what I intend to do is actually keep this very conversational. While I may have a few slides that I have to show you, but I want to really do this as a conversation and as a discussion rather than a presentation or a session. So first up, I'll do what I always do in a session like this or whenever I'm conducting something like this is I like to ask what's the feeling in the room. So how are you feeling today? And just to get it started, and you can unmute and tell me or tell us about it. So I'm nervous because I was telling this to Bhumika that I'm actually taking a session like this after almost a year. So I might fumble and I might falter a little bit. So please bear with me. So that's about me. Anybody else? Shweta, you have to unmute and say I know you've typed it in the group, but we'd like to hear your voice.
How are
Shweta?
you feeling? I'm feeling curious. That's my reply.
Okay, cool. How about the rest?
I'm actually a little lazy today because it's
Uh,
Saturday.
yeah, understandable. It's a Saturday morning.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like interested as well. Marketing is something that I've kind of like been dabbling in since I started my own business, and it kind of like your the headline of your session caught my attention. So I'm very interested in knowing more.
Awesome, awesome, Julian. Welcome, welcome. How about you, Vikas, Elizabeth, Harshada?
Hi guys, Vikas this side. Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, I've been here for a couple of. I've been a regular attendee, I think. Yeah, I'm looking to collaborate with fellow instructional designers and content creators more into the andragogy space.
Okay, okay, cool, cool. But you didn't tell us how you're feeling today.
Well, it's weekend, so just chilling at home.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. How about you, Elizabeth? Oh, Elizabeth's going to be silent. Okay. Okay, no problem. So whenever it's good to get a feeling of the room, and since the pandemic, we've all gone virtual and we've forgotten that we are all human beings, and the feelings are something that we all associate with in some sense, and that's why I like to start off my session just to get a sense of how people are feeling on that day. Hopefully my session doesn't put you to sleep and keeps you engaged and entertained, or even hopefully you learn something, Julian and Shweta, who are both curious and interested in knowing something. Like I said, I want to keep this as a conversation. So the first thing I want to ask you guys is, how do you define great content? Is there anything that you've come across in the last couple of days, even today or yesterday, or that you'd say, okay, something that I really liked? Anybody can unmute and talk about it. Anything, any piece of it could be a movie, it could be, a message that you may have received, it could be a post that you read on one of the social media channels. Hello, again, silence. Okay, the session.
There's actually quite a bit, but I can't recall any particular one right now. But I think I can. I think all of us have seen Zomato ads, right? Topical ads on social media. That is one thing that always catches your attention when you scroll, and it stops you midway. So I think
Correct.
that is
Correct. So,
like catching your attention and making you stop and look at it is something that I can tell is a great content.
yeah, I think it's important that we establish the baseline in terms of what we think is great content. So I would love to hear from you if you've heard, if you've seen something in the past, read something in the past that has caught your attention and you thought, wow, this is something that I really appreciate and I think it's good, or it made me click, or it made me do something that I would not usually do. Anybody else?
So for
Anything?
me, Reuben, Twitter is something which was very unexplored almost like a couple of months back. And Twitter threads, especially Sahil Bloom, is something that I am very fond of. And what I also have observed on LinkedIn and Twitter both, that I see collaboration over competition. So people citing good content of their competitors, sharing good content of their competitors is something which is like really commendable, because then it eliminates, everyone has their own set of audience, and this is something which was heartening for me, if I may put it.
Okay, so it's something that you would say that, okay, it's collaborative. It's something that everybody wants to learn from.
So Twitter threads, yeah, they are the most simplified and capsule bite-sized method of putting out the content, and it is, to my mind, not easy to simplify messaging in that manner. So it takes a skill, to my mind.
Okay, yeah, true. I agree. I mean, getting anything to communicate in those 270 characters is an art. It takes a bit of effort and it takes a bit of practice to get to to a level of, say, an Elon Musk or a Trump who can, basically vent out or show excitement in those few characters that are available. I mean, I'm using these two characters because they're probably one of the most prolific Twitter users that are out there. Trump was recently banned from Twitter, but yeah, I mean, he used to pretty much tweet from everywhere. So coming back to great content, and I think for me, if I was to talk about what I see or what I think is great content, is one, it gives me some value. So I either learn something from it, or I get to know something new, or it is something that I have. I just want to, maybe vegetate at the end of the day. It's something that allows me to do that. It is something that, okay, if I have an objective. So for example, if I need to cook something and I need to find a recipe, and I find a recipe which does not give me, a whole history and geography about the dish, but just straight away gives me the recipe. I think it's great. And it's subjective. The objective is just that I want to cook, and that when I read that recipe or when I read that article or watch that video, I'm able to cook what I want to cook. And it also is unique in the sense that, see, we don't have, I mean, the world is sort of saturated now with a whole bunch of content. So uniqueness is subjective, but it is something that probably I would say that I've not seen before, or something that has been projected in a, it's the same idea, maybe projected in a different way. And that's what is, according to me, great content. And of course, I am sort of a grammar Nazi, so I also like clean, well-written content, even if it is in a second language, which is Hindi or Marathi for me. I want it to make sense, and hence it needs to be simple and typo free and stuff like that. Not to say that I don't make mistakes when I'm putting out content, but generally, somebody who's done a little bit of proofreading on it would catch my eye. So if I dig a little deeper, and I'm going to go into each of these three, you can call them three points on good content or great content, and I'll explain to you with an example on how each of these points really come alive. Okay, and when I say add value, what do I mean? It either informs me, it engages me, or it entertains me. And in my mind, or to my knowledge, if a piece of content is not doing one of these three things, okay, without being preachy, without trying to sell me or push something to onto my into my day, which I don't want to do, I think it's done its job. So it either informs me in a way that, okay, I did not know this, or I know this, but it has refreshed my memory, or it has engaged me in some way. So I've played a game, or I've done something that has made me think a little bit more, or it has just generally entertained me. So what I'm going to do now is show you two examples that have really added value to my life, and we can have discussions around this and see. I'll ask you about your content that you may have seen that has had added value to you. So the first one I want to talk about is the HubSpot marketing tools and templates. Okay, uh, any uh, any word, any topic that you search on for on content marketing, you will definitely have HubSpot in the top 5 or 10 pages. And the reason is not because it's only SEO driven. It is the reason for that is because the content is very useful. I have used HubSpot templates while I was working as a full-time marketing professional, as well as now when I'm trying to set up a business. And if you haven't gone to the HubSpot section, the blog section, or if you haven't found this as a marketer or as somebody who's looking to do something online with respect to content, then I suggest you go there and see it, because and it's very well organized, it's very well structured. The templates are all free, okay, and it has a very simple purpose. It talks about the latest trends and strategies. They have reports that are very deep. They have reports and templates which are very, very beginner level also. And it does not push the HubSpot product at all. It only gives you the information that you need. And that is what makes people come back to HubSpot. They may not know what HubSpot does as a tool, but they keep coming back to the HubSpot website just for this information. The other example that I want to talk about is the Jamie Oliver recipes. How many of you know of Jamie Oliver? I know Bhumika didn't know till I spoke about him. But Jamie Oliver he gives all his recipes for free. He has a whole section on how to cook better and how to do a range of things in the cookery thing. What is he selling? He's selling his brand. Okay, so when you watch a Jamie Oliver recipe or you watch a Jamie Oliver video, you are connected to Jamie Oliver, who is the cook and the brand. And this is actually true for all most chefs. But I like the way Jamie Oliver does it is because I find it engaging. I find it entertaining. I watch his videos just for entertainment. And it also showcases his core thoughts in what he means when he cooks. So he talks about his passions. He talks about his the core, which is his focuses on core ingredients. And when you look at Jamie Oliver, the brand in a restaurant or in his products as a off the shelf kind of products, or even the cookery, the cooking dishes and utensils, it's all about that. It's all about simplicity, and it's all about getting the job done with the best ingredients, or the best ingredients that's available to you. So I'll stop here and I'll go back to this slide on adding value. So can somebody tell me about anything that they have seen that has added value to their life in some way, in either informing or engaging or entertaining them?
So one example that comes to mind is a podcast channel that I tend to follow, which is basically about positive affirmations. And basically what it does is every day it gives you 3 positive affirmations that you can repeat to yourself, write down, and then keep in a place where you can easily see and remember. It kind of like ticks the box of adding value because it's kind of connected with self-improvement. And at a certain age onwards, people are always striving for self-improvement. So positive affirmation statements basically are targeting one area of self-improvement, right? It's like your kind
Correct.
of like, improvement on the mental front, emotional front, and targeted at well-being from those 2 perspectives. So in that sense, and it's great content because it's a short podcast every single day, not more than 3 minutes of listening time, and you just come away, feeling good. It's easy to apply as well, and there are definite benefits to have from it.
Correct. So what's the name of this podcast?
It's called Positive Affirmations, I think.
Okay. Interesting. And what is the
it's on Spotify.
Okay, cool. Anybody else in terms of content that they've come across and found that it's added value either in informing you or engaging you or entertaining you?
Yeah, I think I would like to mention about Prezi. Prezi, it's an online tool that I always find the templates really relevant to the content that I work with. So any what are the creative presentations, Prezi is a beautiful place. It's just that if you have the premium version, you will get a little more options of downloading and saving it to the PDF. Yeah, it gives you the spatial depth, the spatial dimension to your presentation. The 2D screen, Prezi gives you that movement that makes it appear as.
So they have a template section that they keep promoting and talking about. Right. Okay, interesting. So, I mean, thanks for sharing, and I'll move on. And there are some more fun examples, so maybe I can play it for you as well, so that it becomes a little bit more interesting. So now, when I talk about objective, okay, now objective is a bit, it can get a bit confusing. Okay, so an objective would be the objective that the content wants to achieve. It can be an objective that the user wants to, or the audience wants to achieve. So, like I gave you the example of the Jamie Oliver and me, or a recipe, right? Me wanting to find a recipe. I want to cook. My objective is to find a recipe. I find a great video or a great blog that gives me the recipe, and that's pretty much my objective. The objective of, say, a Jamie Oliver video may be, while I'm getting the recipe, his objective may be to tell me about his brand and tell me about the product, his values, and how he puts in the effort to source the ingredient and things like that, which then aligns me to his brand of cooking and his brand of restaurants and things like that. So if it is, and if you look at any piece of content today, there is very few pieces of content that don't have an objective. Some of them are pretty overt about it, as in you can pretty much see what they are trying to push and can be very salesy. And some of them are very understated, and I'll give you an example of that understated example of how it is very understated and very nicely put together. It has to, when you have an objective for your content, it makes it a lot easier to both promote or to create the content, as well as for the audience to digest that content. Okay, so coming back to the example of the recipe, if I know that I want to talk about my the best ingredients, or which part of the country I come from, and hence I have knowledge on this particular recipe, I can give you a recipe that's very aligned and very local to that particular need, right? Or if I'm a chef that likes to experiment, then okay, then I'll give you a recipe like that. As for me, if I want to cook, in a particular way, then I know that, okay, this particular chef or this particular recipe will give me that piece of information. So both the objectives are aligned, and then it's easier to find that piece of content and get engaged with it or get informed with it. So I'll talk about an example which is controversial to say the least, but it's I think, according to me, one of and it's into its 7th season. We can have a discussion on Coffee with Karan, not on Coffee with Karan, but about Coffee with Karan. But let me play this sequence for those who have not seen it. Okay, it's not here. Just give me a second. Okay, let me play this on YouTube. So how many of you have seen Coffee with Karan? While I get this video playing, then maybe you can talk about it.
I have.
Only Harshada. I don't feel embarrassed to talk about it. It's okay.
I've seen a couple of episodes, but not regular watcher.
Okay.
Regularly.
So this video is not playing for some reason. Let me see if I can go off presenter mode and play this. Is my screen visible?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I mean, it went off.
Let me play this because it's a fun video. So
It's Karan, my first guest. They are two happily married people, just not to each other.
We are Sakhis.
Sakhis!
With girlfriend.
Oh,
Please meet Pammi.
Pammi is very interested in everything.
oh, sorry. Where did this go? Okay, I need to learn about.
Welcome back to Coffee with Karan, my first guest.
इस साल हैम्पर में क्या क्या होगा?
What has we here for? One myth about marriage that got busted as soon as you tied the knot.
There's no such thing as Suhag Raat. You're tired.
30 seconds to talk on my
The
marriage.
day Karan will get
Not-
married. Oh, my marriage!
Genius of the year.
I have something that I want to play with the both of you. It's called Coffee Bingo. You have a sex
I
playlist.
have different sex playlists. Tirgdha, tirgdha, dha.
Best on-screen chemistry with Varun Dhawan or Ranveer Singh.
Listen, if I
I'll
mean,
kill you. It's over. I'm leaving it. Edit भेज देना.
Hey, come back.
काय का पागल है क्या? रणबीर is better dancer. I have better chemistry. अरे दोस्त के नाम पे कलंक.
Coffee with Karan season 7 starts July 7th.
Okay, so for those who have not seen Coffee with Karan, maybe this was a good intro to it. So if you notice, they have a very simple purpose or an objective, is to entertain the audience. But if you look a bit closer and if you watch the episode, there's a lot of brand promotion that happens. There's a lot of candid. In a very candid way, they try and promote certain, either a movie or a product, or they even get you to engage with the star in a way that you may have not seen or heard of them, and that's also a way of promoting the brand image of the star, or even the host, Karan Johar, who's the host. So I put this here because I felt that this is a very well packaged tool, which is very objective driven. Okay, you may not see the objective. Okay, for somebody who's just looking for entertainment, you may not see it. But for me as a marketer, I know that this is a very well put together marketing program. It's actually just that. It's not only a show for entertainment. He's got brands like Agio, which is an online brand. He's got consumer brands like, I'm calling Google Home consumer brand. He's got Chakwa Lighting, which is again a consumer product or a lighting product. Then he's got, I'm pretty sure he's got some of the big technology brands to sponsor his hamper and things like that. So it's a lot of brand promotion that's happening on this platform. And I think if you look at it closely, I mean, now as somebody who's looking at content that is objective driven, you'll understand what I'm saying. The next example that I want to talk about is the Zomato emails, and Bhumika mentioned this. The reason I put, there's only one here, but this was the most recent, actually last week is what I received this, and it made me click. And I usually don't click the first reaction to any email that comes from one of these service providers or one of these apps is to delete them, right? But the way Zomato writes them and the way Zomato positions them is very interesting. Okay, they have a simple objective. They just want to inform their audience about the sale or the promotion. Okay, but what are they also doing? They're also building brand affinity, and they're also entertaining you in a way. It's hiring season in India for those of you are not aware, and this is, and there's a lot of hiring and firing happening across the country. And Zomato just played on that. Zomato talked about their food. They talked about their love for food. They talked about the promotion. And if you claim the offer, it just takes you to the Zomato app or the Zomato website, which has the 50% off promotion. It has nothing about an offer letter at all. So, and if you follow some of their social media posts or even their offline posts, it's all connected to food, and they connect food and their brand very, very well. So I would suggest that if you are looking at Zomato, look at them as look at the objective that they're trying to drive, and see how well they are doing that, and there's a lot to learn from that. So again, I'll stop here. I'll go back to this particular slide, and if you can tell me any piece of content that you've come across that is very well, where the objective is very well defined, and or anything that you have wanted to do, like in your daily life or daily work day, and then come across something that has really helped you. Hello?
There was one, like when you were talking about the Jamie Oliver recipes, or when you mentioned that, I could recall one YouTube creator that like rose to fame during the pandemic. Until then, I don't think he even had a channel. It's called Butt and Butt, which is very famous in Karnataka and the Kannada speaking audience.
Okay.
So his content was all about like the village life, whether it's the traditional authentic recipes or the things that they do, like crafts, handicrafts, things like that. And it was very refreshing at that point of time, because one, it spoke about a lot of things. It gave a complete picture of the village life that he lived. And the idea was to inform and engage, entertain the audience. I say entertain because he spoke very casually, like it was a next door guy. But it was also informing and engaging with the audience. And because all of us were confined at like in our own spaces, it was very refreshing at that point of time. And he rose to fame. So I think that was very well planned. And even now it still works. People still watch his content.
And because it is regional and in a particular language, you know that it is targeted to a particular set of audience, right? It's not,
and it establishes
it's not broad.
the connect. Yeah.
It's not broad based, or not saying that I want to target everybody.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anybody else? Harshada, you said you've seen Coffee with Karan. Did you notice all the things that I was talking about?
I did. It's hard not to notice because Karan has a certain way of saying these things when he's hosting. So whenever he goes on to the rapid fire round, he changes the lights, right? So it's very hard not to notice when he gives the command to Google or maybe Alexa for a short period. He also used Alexa. It's very hard not to notice when he says that. It's obvious that they are promoting that particular brand.
Yes, and he's actually also changes. If you notice, he's a bit uncomfortable, and his tone changes when he says that. So it is, although it is seamlessly built into the script, he tends to you tend to notice it when he's going to talk about the brand. So that's one I think I would say downside of the whole show. But otherwise, I think it's very well scripted into the whole show. So I'll move on. I'll move on to the next part because I have to cover the couple of more slides on the audience and things like that. So what I want to talk about is uniqueness. Now, nothing in the world today, according to me, is unique. There's always you'll always find somebody who's done it before. Sometimes you may find it and you may give them, you may attribute it to them. In some cases, you may not know about it and you might get sued for it. But by and large, most things are have been done before. The uniqueness comes in the individuality, in the fact that you have looked at it, or the creator has looked at it in a way that maybe somebody else may have not, or even if they have looked at it in the same way, it's a very different output that comes out. And even if somebody's, and the most common example that we have right now is at least in the Indian scenario, is the Forrest Gump remake of, which is the Lal Singh Chadda, right? It was the same script. It was the same. I mean, not the same script, but the same story, same setting, similar settings, etc., and done in a very different way. Now, how the movie did was a totally different story altogether, but it's a different take on the same story. So, when I talk about uniqueness, I look at it from the objective and from how a simple thing has been taken up to achieve a very specific objective. And one of the examples that I want to show to you is Wordle. And Wordle is still very popular. It's a very and for those of you who don't know Wordle, it gives you 6 attempts. So this is by the New York Times. New York Times is one of the world's leading dailies. Used to have a print version, now is online. Is not doing well online. They needed to get their online sales up as well. So what they did was and the New York Times crossword is actually very popular in the physical format. They wanted to do a similar thing online, but online to replicate a crossword puzzle is not easy. So what they did was they created this simple game. Okay, it gives you 6 attempts. They come up with a 5-letter word. Okay, it gives you 6 attempts to choose or to write down your version of the word. And if you have got the letter correct, it shows up in green. If you've got the letter correct, but it's in the wrong position, it shows up as yellowish or brown. And if you've got it completely wrong, it'll just show you a black tile, and you get 6 attempts to do that. And it became popular because people started sharing this on social media. And the New York Times had a very simple objective. They just wanted people to come back to the website again and again. So they release a Wordle, and you can Google this. There's a Wordle every day that releases every day. Okay, and you get the 24 hours to do it, but you can't do a new one till it shows up the next day. It is one of the most popular online games today, in the sense that they get about 10 million plus hits a day, and this is documented fact. So they are it's a very simple format, and the reason why I say that it is unique is because it took you just have to find a 5-letter word, right? Anybody can come up with a 5-letter word. You don't need to have know the dictionary and do some deep thing, and it gives you very simple cues to follow, and you can publish it easily on any platform or any social media. You can even share a screenshot with your friends and family, and it became very popular. So this is one example that I wanted to talk about. The other one is, again, I hope I can play this. It's the Hootsuite. Hootsuite is another platform like HubSpot. It's a CRM platform. They made something called the Game of Social Thrones. I'll play this with you. So those of you who are familiar with Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones has a very nicely done intro scene where they show you when they are showing the names and the titles and stuff like that. They play this scene, and what Hootsuite did was they recreated this for social media. Let me play this before I talk about it. Right. So if you noticed, how it came about was that all the social media kingdom, so to say, so the Google kingdom, the Meta kingdom, the Twitters, and all of these are sort of isolated in their own way, right? So what Hootsuite does, it brings it all together, and that's the whole message that they wanted to give. And they used a popular culture theme to really talk about this in a fun way, and they're not violating any copyright, because if you notice, the music is different. Maybe the treatment is similar to how they do it in the Game of Thrones version, but it's entertaining, and you didn't. I mean, you'd want to see what next, or how it pans out with the others. And it had pretty much all the big social media names. Sorry. So again, I'll go back now to the screen that talks about uniqueness. So is there anything that you may have come across that you found was unique, or a story that has probably been told before but in a different way?
Can't recall any as of now.
Yeah, because I'll tell you why. Because there are very few. Honestly, there are very few that are really unique, that are really telling their story in a very different way, or telling it in a way that is unique to them, and that's the big challenge in today's day and age, is that how do you tell the same story in a new way, or in a fresh way. So anybody who has an example, I'm sure it'll be something that is an old concept.
I'm not sure if this is a valid example, but it was something that struck me at the time. This was quite a few years ago. This was back when the series, the Netflix series Breaking Bad, was very popular, and there was someone had done a comparative article, which basically used Breaking Bad as an analogy, and different events in the series as an analogy to talk about different business learnings from business, rather. So learnings that you could take away from Breaking Bad and apply to the business context. So two very different worlds, because if you know the series, it's entirely about
crystal meth.
Yes, crystal meth and the drug trade and everything. And they started taking business principles from there, and drawing parallels, and came up with a very interesting article that was that I believe became very popular on the net. I started doing the rounds, and it also kind of started off a bit of a trend in that sense, where people started using these kind of analogies. It was something that kind of resonated with me as well, as a interesting strategy to kind of use, play off something that is very popular to kind of drive home your own message. And I, even though I don't remember who did it, or I don't know those kind of details, but I'm sure it would have made an impact for the content creator as well.
Correct. So that's also, I mean, the meme culture, or the creating memes is again something that is being used. But the way you treat the meme, it may be the same image and the same visual, but the way you tell that story, or the perspective you add to it, is what gives it its uniqueness.
So here there are two examples that I can cite. One is the Instagram page of Naval. I find the way he shares his thoughts is very unique. This is just personally my opinion, because I've not come across any other creator sharing what he's sharing in that manner. The second which I liked was the unique way of repurposing the content, if I may say, which Ankur Pariku does it very brilliantly. So he does these Friday lives, and in those Friday lives, the interesting conversations are captured in capsule, and there's a messaging. So which is a brilliant way of repurposing the content,
Mhm.
because lives are pretty impromptu, and whatever he's sharing when anybody is asking questions, etc., this is like, not cooked up content. This is like real time, so it relates with people more. The second way that he has started repurposing or adding value, that concept also, is that you he has reached out to audience saying that you create memes for me, and the memes that I like, I will give $3,000 to the meme creator, and I will cite him, like tag him.
Mhm.
So and he has got now a beautiful library of memes in his kitty, and obviously $3,000 and Ankur Wariko's page, if I'm getting tagged, it's a win-win for both. So these two are, unique ways which I felt content can be made more interesting. And I've also seen why when you do these things, you do get loyal following, because you keep on bringing that variety and uniqueness as you go along.
Correct. So it's a very underrated skill to have, which is to bring in your own unique perspective. Many people are afraid of that. Many people shy away because of putting themselves out there, and I think Ankur Warikoo does that well. He puts himself out there. A few of them are hits, few of them are misses, but he's not afraid to experiment, which is, I think, what is unique and fun. Okay, so I'll move on and where did this go?
Harshada cited the Humans of Bombay example.
Okay.
Unique content.
Yes, Humans of Bombay. Yes, I mean, if you've seen Humans of New York, it's actually a take on that. But if you've not seen it, then yes, it is unique, and it is the way they tell the story, and uh, the way they used to tell this. I mean, I personally think that they have sold or they're selling themselves short because of the now their content seems to be almost like generic and not very deep the way it used to be. But that's just my thought. So I want to go into this very important aspect of creating content. And because if you're, I mean, one is if you create content for art's sake, okay, for your own sake, and for creating something in putting something out in the world that's close to your heart, then that's art. Then you're not worried about what your audience says. But if you're doing anything beyond that, you're creating it for an audience, whether it is an audience of one. So whether if you're creating, you're writing a letter to somebody, you're writing it to somebody. So that audience matters. If you're the example that, in fact, I was talking to somebody this morning, and I said that if I want to give directions to somebody to the airport, I would obviously wonder or think about who I'm giving those directions to, right? Whether I'm giving it to my parent, like my mother or father, or if I'm giving it to my wife, or if I'm giving it to some car taxi driver or somebody. So your audience always matters, and the very important part of that is your audience decides what is great content. It's not you. So if you create something, it's not you who says, okay, wow, I've done this great, and that's what most content creators uh, forget or tend to forget when they are creating content for an audience. You may create something that's written beautifully. It has great structure in terms of comprehension, and grammar is perfect, and you're giving all the points one after the other. It's sequential. But if your audience doesn't read it, or if your audience is not interested in all those points that you're telling them, and you're not able to grab their attention, then it's not great. It's not achieved what it's supposed to do, right? It's not engage them, it's not inform them, or it's not entertain them. So the audience is the focal point of any content, according to me, and it's important that you do a little bit of deep dive or understanding of your audience. And what I'm going to offer to you today is a very simplistic way. Now there's a whole academic side to knowing your audience, like you figuring out your demographics, your buyer personas, interviews, and all that jazz. But what I'm going to give you today is a very simple formula which has helped me tremendously. It's a it's a very simple way of figuring out what your audience wants, and it may take you a couple of attempts to do this, in a systematic way. But if you do this thoroughly, and whether it is through primary research, as in actually going out and talking to your audience, or it is through secondary research and just generally seeing what's out there and doing it, your content will become that much more valuable. Okay, it's the know feel do approach. Okay, it's knowing as in knowledge, feeling as in emotions, and doing as an action. Okay, so there are two aspects to knowing. Now, knowledge is subjective, right? But when you want to give, when you have an objective that, okay, let me take this example of giving directions to somebody to reach the airport. I would first try to figure out, okay, does this person that I'm giving the information to, how are they going? Are they going via a cab, taking a taxi? Are they taking their own vehicle? Are they using the bus service? Are they, taking, some other train or metro to the airport? Where do they stay? And what is it that they know already of the city? So all this information is important for me to then formulate my answer and tell them that, okay, if you need a cab, you need to go onto this app, book a cab, put in this in the location, and they'll take you from A to B. If you need to take a bus, then okay, these are the buses that are available. So then once you know what they already know, then it's easy for you to then communicate and formulate the message that you want to give them, right? And what is it that they don't know, so that you can fill in those blanks. Now, in terms of feeling, now in this example of, say, for example, giving somebody to get from A to B. Now, if I'm now giving somebody instructions, I want them to feel that they are safe. They're reaching the airport on time, without missing their flight. Okay, the feeling will be a lot more amplified when I'm giving it to family. So when I'm giving it to my parents, or to somebody close to me, and it might be very different from somebody who's, say, a cab driver, or somebody who's not really related to me. So how do I want them to feel? And that is important, because at the end of the day, when you're writing, or when you're creating content, or when you're creating a visual, or you are giving a visual, as human beings, you're talking to them one-on-one. And this is actually David Ogilvy's point of view. And if you've not read this book, you should read this book. Is Ogilvy on Advertising. It's David Ogilvy, the guy who founded Ogilvy and Mathers. It's a very old book. David Ogilvy is known as one of the fathers of modern day advertising. And this was the first book that my first boss told me to read, because when I was writing content, he wasn't happy with it. So he told me, you read this book. And what Ogilvy says is that when you're writing copy, or when you're writing anything, you're writing to one person. Even if it's on the internet, even if it's in a newspaper, you're writing to one person. And if you remember this, you will realize that when you're trying to bring out a feeling or an emotion, it's about making that one person feel something. And that is very important in any sort of communication. And it's forgotten very often, but it's a very important aspect of communication. And then obviously there is the do aspect of it. Now, do I want them to take a bus? Do I want them to take a train? Do I want them to stop somewhere? And all of this needs to be very, very clearly articulated. And even in marketing, if you don't have a clear call to action, you are not, the audience doesn't know what you want them to do. You need to tell them. You need to be very, very, very clear. Click this button, open this form. So if you are clear about it, it becomes that much more easier for them to assimilate and take that action. Now, they may decide if they don't want to take that action, then it's up to them. But at least you have been clear in your instruction. Okay, there's no messing around over there. So the know, feel, do, and pretty much and if you look at any sort of communication or any sort of messaging, will follow this approach. What is it that you want them to know? How do you want them to feel? And what are the actions that you want them to take? And whether you're writing a LinkedIn post or whether you're writing a long letter to somebody, or whether you are creating an artwork or something that you want to show somebody in a presentation, right? So how do I want you to feel right now when I'm talking to you about this? What is it that you already know? That's why I'm trying to get you to talk to me, and I don't know you, right? So I need to understand what is your knowledge levels, but I can share more information. We can make this more enriching. What is it that I want you to do? I want you to learn from this and then go out there and start practicing it. That is the end objective of the do for me in this session. So again, I'll stop here. Any questions that you might have on this? Because this is, I feel, the crux of the session for today, and that's why it's at the end. It's something that hopefully you can take away and start practicing immediately. And yeah. So any questions? Have you heard of this before? Have you used it before? I'd love to hear from you.
No, I actually haven't heard of this particular theory before, but it was quite interesting for me. No questions from my side actually at this time.
Okay. So, I mean, I know we are running out of time, so I mean, I'm available for questions if needed, and we can have an open-ended, conversation now. And if you can tell me anything that, in terms of a content or even anything that you've come across in the last, now that you know this no feel do approach, anything that has made you, realize something new or make you feel something, or even made you do something. Like, is it the email that came to you this morning about the session? Is that something that made you come into this session today? So, sorry, that was just a little bit of self-promotion, but okay. So, right, so we're opening this out to a free-flowing discussion now. So, anything in the session that you felt was something that you is a good takeaway and you think is something that you can use in your regular work or regular life?
It's not something that is in the session, but something that I want to understand better.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of, I think almost all of us do it these days, which is repurposing content, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you also say that let's first put content pillars in place, and then we can see how we can get it to different platforms, how we can use it to different platforms. But when we do that, we tend to focus on one platform, and the other fall, maybe the others are not. So what happens in repurposing is maybe one platform takes center stage and the others don't. So how do you is there, what should you know when you repurpose content? Even there, they may be following different objectives, right?
Yes. So if I've understood your question correctly, it is about when you repurpose content, you tend to still forget what is the platform and what is the role of that particular content that you're trying to create. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this statement on the screen sort of summarizes it. So if you keep your audience at the center of any communication or any content that you're creating, you will not get lost. And repurposing also is, let me again share something that I learned the hard way when I first started creating content, is that I was very attached to it. Okay, for some reason. I mean, not some reason, because it's come from within me, right? It's a creation. That's why it's called creator, right? You're creating something. And when you create something, you tend to, and it's something that's come from you and Julian and Vikas, who are in instructional design, will also agree with me, is that when it comes from within and when it comes as a something that you've created, you tend to get attached to it. And you tend to associate your work in your life to that. So anytime you're creating content, you need to dissociate yourself from that and look at it from the audience perspective. And you need to look at it from the objective perspective. And once you do that, you tend to look at it from a very, very different lens. It becomes more objective and less subjective, in the sense that it becomes less about uh, the which colors you've used, what kind of visuals you've used, and it becomes more about, will this color appeal to my audience? Is my audience, and if you and there are obviously, there's a whole science on colors, and there's a whole science on in types of visuals that are being used. So that's when you get in those kind of experts. But the idea is that your audience will dictate even the platform that you want to go on. So when you're repurposing content for LinkedIn, it is the audience that you want to reach on LinkedIn. If you want to repurpose that same content for Instagram, that audience is very different. So you may want to change or add obviously Instagram is a visual tool, right? So you would use a lot more visuals there. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah.
It's not easy. The process of content creation is tedious. Okay, and unfortunately, it's become like a quick fix. Everybody wants a quick fix today, but in the real world, or in like reality, if you want to make good content, you need to take the time and you need to take the effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to add to it, repurpose does not really mean copy pasting. It needs to be in alignment with the objective. So for instance, as Reuben mentioned, if you're writing something on LinkedIn, uh, it has a different tonality. It has a different version. If you use the same version all across the medium, it will not be received well, because the audience is different. The psyche of the audience while using the social media platform is also different. So when I'm using Instagram, it is not for gaining knowledge, it's mostly for entertainment. So you have to also play on the psyche part, while knowing the audience may be the same. So when I am reading a content on LinkedIn, when I am reading a content on Instagram, or when I'm watching a YouTube, my mindset is also different. So that also, I believe, should come into play when it comes to repurposing.
Correct. So it boils down to the objective and the audience. What is it that you really want to achieve, and what is it that your audience is ready for or wants to listen to? All right. Any more questions, thoughts, ideas? How is everyone feeling right now at the end of the session?
I have one question, Reuben. When you spoke about who your audience is, can we go to that slide where you explained the theory?
Sure.
No. So the no part, when you're starting content creation, it's a trial and error thing. So the first piece of content will not have the no part, apart from a little bit of assumption. Is that, like, how do you rule that out? Or do you need to always go and dig deeper and do a detailed research and go into that analysis paralysis before going into the first content?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked this question, and you use the term analysis paralysis. But the analysis paralysis happens when you have too much of information. The problem right now is that people start off with a completely blank slate, and it's actually not a blank slate. When you want to create something for the first time, when you want to connect with an audience for the first time, I would suggest that you, if not talk to the audience, at least get a temperature check of what's around. Okay, so figure out what environment the audience is living in, or is what kind of information that they are aligned to. It could be subscriptions that they follow. It could be, especially since we're talking about LinkedIn, right? It could be groups that they follow. So you figure out, if these are the groups, what is the kind of information that is being shared there? So that means they know that much, right? They know a little bit more. What is it that they are, the questions that are being asked sometimes in these forums, right? Or in these programs. And try and gauge the secondary information, at least in terms of the knowledge that they may have, and also think some of it will be assumption that you mentioned earlier. Like, for example, if I'm talking, say, to HR professionals, okay, and HR professionals of a certain level in a particular organization, I would know based on their profile that, okay, they would already have some knowledge on on policy building and things like that. So then I would not talk about that, but I would add value to that knowledge in a different way. That's what I would be focusing on. So it's about knowing that the audience a little deeper, more than just the surface level. And I don't agree that you are starting from a blank slate. You are starting at a point where you can definitely have some insights in what the audience already knows.
So maybe not consciously working, but you already have done some homework which
Yes.
you not have realized. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And see, the thing is, people today just want to go out there and start creating content, which is a good thing, but it's also some of it may not be productive, because you would end up just doing a lot of trial and error. So just like you say analysis paralysis, I would say too much of experimentation. Like, you'd rather just do your homework first and then start off, and then do the more focused trial and error, or a focused experimentation. All right, I hope I answered that question.
Yes, definitely.
Cool. Any more questions, thoughts? I think it was a brilliant discussion. I think I got you guys to think a little bit. At least that's my assumption. I'd be glad to answer any further questions. So I think, Bhumika, that's it from me. If there are no further questions, you guys can reach out to me over email or phone call in case you need to. I haven't put down my number, but you have. You can just ping me on LinkedIn, and I'll respond to you if you don't have my email ID or mobile number. So thank you very much. It was a wonderful session. I learned about a few new content that I can think about, like the motivational podcast. I'm not a fan of podcasts, but I'll check this one out, Julian. And Bhumika, I don't know Kannada, but let me check out this person that you're talking about.
Sure.
Cool.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. So the Content Collective needs a lot more support from you guys in terms of not monetary support, but in terms of getting people to speak at these sessions. We have this video obviously gets recorded and gets played across our channels. But if you know Julian, Shweta, I know you guys are very well embedded in your own networks. So if you know somebody or someone who would like to hear, or who will like to come and share their thoughts and ideas on this platform, we are more than happy to host them, because we honestly are running out of ideas. We're running out of thoughts and what to do next. So we're looking to the community to actually support and share what they would like to know.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you on the other side in the next meetup.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. See you.
Bye-bye.